Hello, I'm Denise Smith, and welcome to All Things Small Business, the #1 show on social media dedicated to helping you upgrade your business. Tonight, we're going to be speaking with a successful CEO of an IT firm, but first, we're going to talk about some legislation that you need to know for your business. So, I'm going to give you 1 minute to tell a friend, tune in, and join the conversation. Hey everybody, I'm Denise Smith. Welcome to All Things Small Business. We've got a great show for you this evening. I'm talking with a couple of dynamic individuals that are doing big things in Prince George's County. My first guest is Maryland Senator Melony Griffith. So I'm going to bring her up right now. Hello, Senator. How are you?
Hey, good evening. I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. I want to thank you so much for squeezing us in, and I'm not going to keep you long because I know you got things to get back to, but I hear you've got some important legislation that you're presenting before the legislature that could really help small businesses, right?
Absolutely. Let me tell you that I was so excited this interim while the country was dealing with the pandemic and a reckoning around race and equity like we've not seen probably in many of our lifetimes. The president of the Senate, Bill Ferguson, asked me to chair a work group on equity and inclusion. We were asked to focus on environmental justice, health disparities, and wealth and equity opportunities, wealth and financial opportunities. We made 47 recommendations. 12 of them were related to health, 8 related to environmental justice, and 27 related to wealth and financial equity. And so some of those recommendations have been presented in the form of legislation. I know you're really interested in Senate Bill 564, which actually just passed committee yesterday. The Finance Committee just passed it, or the EHE Committee just passed it yesterday. That is a bill that is going to revamp the state procurement council. We're adding members, representatives of the minority business community on the state's procurement council so that we can work the kinks out and make sure we have people, as they say in Hamilton, in the room where it happens. We have the right people around the table shaping opportunities for businesses to participate in state contracts.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What made you look at that council, and why was it needed, and how many people were on the council to begin with?
Really excellent question. One of the things that we realized is there are a number of groups, boards, and commissions that each deal with a piece of the solution, right? The issues around procurement and small minority women-owned businesses are handled by several different agencies, several different department heads, and we really hoped to streamline the process. I actually put in a bill last session that was going to create a whole separate council just to deal with this issue, and then we realized there are so many other councils in place. Why not just reshape the one that already has the department heads, the cabinet secretaries, and the state chief procurement officer? So what we did is we combined several concepts into one piece of legislation. Delegate Nick Charles, who has the House version of the bill, also added a piece to the bill. We're requiring that the state already has a platform called eMaryland Marketplace where all of the grants that businesses can bid on are supposed to be advertised. Well, Delegate Charles suggested that this procurement council that we've revamped also ensure that they are watching that eMaryland Marketplace to make sure all of those contracts and proposals are advertised. I'll tell you about one other bill real quick, and we're actually voting in the delegation, so I'm going to have to jump off shortly. But another bill that we've introduced is Senate Bill 649. That bill is we're still working the kinks out. We're talking to business owners like you every day, Denise, and learning more about how to make the process better. What we learned is each agency in state government, there are over 70 different departments and agencies that do procurements, that do contracts, that hire businesses as vendors to do work with the state. So we want to streamline that process, make sure that they are aware of all the small minority and women-owned businesses available to do work with the state, and that somebody's watching to make sure that the goals that we established in the General Assembly dating back to 1978 are actually lived up to. When we reviewed state government, we learned that our 29% participation goal, in most instances, it's never been met. So some of our agencies are below 1% in terms of minority, small, and women-owned business participation. The average is about 17.9%. We believe Maryland can do better, so we're putting in legislation to try to help.
Well, that sounds like small businesses you certainly sound like a champion for small and minority businesses in Prince George's County and the state of Maryland. So thank you for all that you do. And
well, thank you for what you're doing, for having me.
Okay. All right. You take care and good luck tonight.
Good luck. And I look forward to hearing the other guest when I listen to the live stream later this evening.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Good night.
All right. All right. Good night. All right. My next guest here is no stranger to me, no stranger to Prince George's County. Definitely no stranger to Prince George's County. He used to be the director of the Office of Information Technology for Prince George's County government. Now he owns his own business, and he is here to share his story as an entrepreneur of his IT firm, Mr. Vennard Wright. Hey, Vennard.
Hello, Denise.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good, good, good. So, you know, I'm so glad that you could come on tonight. And you know what? And to be honest, I'm gonna tell you, I don't think I have ever had an IT firm on any one of my shows, right? So and IT just is so like a whole nother language to me, right? So why don't you talk about your firm? And first of all, just give me a little bit about who you are and your background.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with the firm. So the firm was originally founded to focus on robotic process automation and business intelligence, which are two areas I felt most companies would need. But as is the case a lot of times with small businesses, and I'm sure you've heard this before, I had to pivot and begin to focus on other things. So now it's mostly strategy consulting, the things that I've been very good at for years. Mm-hmm. So in terms of my background, it goes back, it does cut across both the public and private sectors. And I'll start with EDS. So EDS was acquired by HP. I was chief technology officer for them probably about 15 or so years ago. Mm-hmm. And after that, I went to go and be director of technology for Hillary Clinton during her Senate re-election and 2008 presidential campaign. Oh, wow. And after that, I joined a couple of other companies in between the time that I joined the county as CIO. Mm. So after Prince George's County, I went and became CIO for WSSC Water. And then after that, I was CIO and VP of Operations for Ironbow Technologies. Okay. And all of those are things that really made me believe that I could do it for myself. I mean, I've made a lot of money for other people working for them. So it's time for me to do it for myself as well.
Okay. And sounds great. I mean, sounds like you have the background and the wherewithal and all of the knowledge that you need to start a firm like that. So talk about Wave Welcome.
Sure. So Wave Welcome, it's a small firm that was, we actually incorporated back in June. And I had the bright idea to go and work doing it full time in the middle of a pandemic, which I wouldn't advise anyone to do. But thankfully things have started to to work out. You know, it's been quite a journey. But, you know, we really are starting to see contracts and, you know, to start to make some noise, and I'm really excited about it. So we are working with a number of different organizations, so some private companies doing strategy consulting, also doing some work with the county as well, and some other clients. But the majority of it really is focused on seeing how we can be more efficient through the use of technology.
So what does that mean? You know, because and there are different areas of technology, right?
Yep.
So is there a specific area that your company focuses on?
Well, I mean, and originally I was focused more on data and automation, but the reality is, as CIO, you work in so many different areas. You work in network engineering, server administration, all of those different areas that you talked about. So I do try to make sure that I'm flexible and I'm able to take advantage of whatever opportunities present themselves. And, you know, I equate it to, there's a term called finite versus infinite games. So it's, you know, people that are familiar with gaming will understand the concept. So finite gaming really means that there are a set number of players, there are a set number of possibilities, there are a set number of outcomes. Infinite means that it's really open. So the best way to really equate this is comparing Blockbuster to Netflix. So Blockbuster had a set number of outcomes. They were based on stores and renting movies, and that was pretty much it. So Netflix comes along and they'll take advantage of whatever opportunity comes. So they started shipping DVDs to the house. Now they're streaming, and they're able to pivot any way they need to. Amazon is another good example of an infinite a store or a business that uses infinite games. So I try to use the same philosophy. So that means that even though I started off saying that I was going to focus on data and automation, whatever opportunity presents itself, I want to make sure that I'm in position to take advantage of it.
Okay. So data and automation, is that like, well, I'm not sure about the data, but is the automation piece, is that where you help companies, I don't know, with their, what is it, customer service relationship, you know, applications like email applications like your what is it, Constant Contact and Gov Delivery and those types of applications, or even for example, for my company, I use a software online for my accounting, Wave apps, those kind of things. Is that the type of work that you deal with?
Absolutely. So you sound like you're already doing a pretty good job of automating. So my job is to make sure.
I was getting around to the point, right?
Well, my job is to make sure I get people to that point. You take a look. You work in county government as well, so I know you know all about the manual, redundant, paper-based processes. So my job is to look for those opportunities, to see where there are things that are based on paper, things that are inefficient, and figure out creative ways to be able to use software and to automate it so that paper is out of the way. As much as possible, manual intervention is out of the way. So I just try to find creative ways to do things better and faster.
Okay. Do you develop apps also?
Well, yeah, that is part of what we do. Absolutely. So what we do is, number one, we take a look at the process, see where things could potentially run better. And then from that point, we do build an application around it so that you don't have to manually do a lot of the things that you might be doing right now. But yes, certainly application development is a big part of it.
Okay. Okay. And, you know, this is interesting for me because, you know, I never really wanted to even understand. I didn't major in computer science. I couldn't do anything in math and science and all of that stuff. So I knew computers was not going to be my thing, right? So, but what about the data aspect of it? Like, how does the end user benefit from some service that you provide when it comes to data?
Well, the best way to look at that is data really is probably one of the most valuable resources right now, which is the reason why apps like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those are free. It's your data. So what I try to encourage people to do is to realize the data they're generating and to make sense of it. So what I try to do is make sure that everything is put into a central repository. We're asking very pointed questions about what we can do with the data, and in some cases, what we can do to monetize the data if it's going to be a part of your business model. So I just want people to appreciate what data is worth and to figure out creative ways to use it. So if you take a look at what we did in Prince George's County when you and I were both there around county stat, putting the data warehouse together, a lot of those decisions for how county services were going to be rolled out were based on data. So I encourage businesses to do the same thing. Just figure out how they can leverage their data, whether it's coming from infrastructure, computers, cameras, or whether it's by applications that might be online. All of it is generating data. So let's just figure out a way to put it into a central repository and leverage it to make informed decisions.
Okay. So say, for example, I have a photography company and the web hosting company that I use, Zenfolio, they allow me to, where I have when my clients are able to come to my website and view some of their photo sessions or something like that, they log in. So to log in, I'm collecting information about them so that if I want to, email them or about, some upcoming sales or specials, is that is that an example?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. That's a great example. So your website, you can get a lot of insights from it. You can see what time of day people are logging into your website, where people are coming from, which pictures they're clicking on the most, how long they're staying on certain pages, if they go to certain parts of your website and then they leave. So there are all kinds of different ways that you can look at that, but all of it is data, which is why Google has created a model around Google Analytics to really track and shape the behavior of website visitors. So that's something that would be very valuable for you too, because as a result of you understanding how people visit your website, you could tweak the website and make it more attractive and potentially attract more customers.
Okay. So who are your clients? Are they individuals or are they organizations and business owners?
Yeah, so my clients are primarily, I look at public sector clients like county governments, also businesses. So recently what I've been focused on, there's a very big opportunity that's out right now called CIOSP4. And it's a federal opportunity through NIH, and it's a $40 billion opportunity. So part of what I'm doing is helping to talk to companies about how they can position themselves to be successful in going after that. In addition to that, I'm also talking to companies about how they can offer additional lines of services for IT. As you mentioned earlier, there are lots of different areas of IT. So what can you do to begin to focus on data analytics? What can you do to start focusing on artificial intelligence? What can you do to start focusing on database administration, those types of things? So it really does run across the gamut. But like I said, it really is both commercial and public sector clients. And, I try to make sure that I go in, see where there's a need and position myself to be able to fill that need.
Okay. And I try to have this show speak to business owners at all different levels. So for those who are thinking about starting, what steps did you take to start your business?
Well, I thought about it for years, and I'll take a step back and say that, I really am an entrepreneur at heart. So probably this now is probably 25 years ago. I had a graphics and web design company. And I've targeted small to medium-sized companies, which, I saw there was a need there. And this is right when, the web was fairly new, at least for most businesses and individuals. Not too many people had a presence on the web back then. In addition to that, I was doing some logo design, some marketing campaigns. And I did have a lot of customers, but the challenge is a lot of small businesses couldn't afford to pay me. So I spent most of my time chasing down my accounts receivable. And that just didn't work out so well. So I went and got a job. But fast forward maybe 5 years or so from that point, also opened up a hair salon with my wife and opened up a day spa, so kept that for about 12 years or so and ended up shutting that down. But I spent the majority of my time for the last 20 years focusing on more predictable revenue, which meant getting a job.
Right.
But it's always been in the back of my mind. And so
Sure.
as far as what I would say about starting a company, don't do what I did. Don't do what I did. And I talked to people, I got verbal commitments, and I come out and all of those commitments dried up. And like I said, it was compounded by the fact I did this in the middle of COVID-19, which means you can't network, you can't meet with people face to face. But thank goodness I had a pretty healthy network. So a lot of people don't have the benefit of having the networks that you have or that I have, which is critical for being able to grow your business, being able to pick up a phone and just really sell yourself and your capabilities. And a lot of times things happen because people believe in you. And that certainly has been the case for me. But what I would say is be deliberate, plan as much as you can, be flexible, and just realize that your plan A might not be the one that you end up executing. So you need to have plans B through probably Z as well.
Okay. So good advice. All right. Good advice. But now let's just talk about the actual steps, right? So when you decided that you were going to start Wave Welcome.
Yep.
How did you come up with your name?
Well, I've had the name for a long time, and Wave means With a Vision Enterprises. So I meant it to be a long time ago, a holding company for a lot of different initiatives. So one other important thing that I focus on, and I did this going as far back as when I was in the county, is develop career pipelines. So one of the things I've seen in all of the positions that I've held, the senior level positions I've held going back to probably EDS, is that at my level, there were very few people that looked like me. And I started to drill down into why that was happening. And it's not as simple as racism or anything like that. It's just that a lot of times minorities, specifically Black people, don't have access to the same networks. They don't know the opportunities exist. And the flip side of that is the people who are recruiting for these positions aren't looking for that talent or don't know where to look for that talent. So what I do is I focus a lot of my time on making sure that, number one, people know where those opportunities are, but they're prepared to be successful in those opportunities. So part of what I focus on with Wave Welcome, there's a separate initiative that we have called Universal Mosaic. So there are two tracks for it. Number one is focusing on college seniors or people who are about to graduate and making sure that they have the skills, both technical and soft skills, to be successful for a job interview and to be able to get into that job, sell themselves. And then the second track is for new career professionals. And what we focus on there is a number of different things. So I just started a monthly series of webinars where I invite people who were former interns of mine to go over different topics. So the first topic that we did last month was 10 tips for career success. And, I just talked about everything from making sure that they have balance, making sure that they invest in themselves, a number of different things. So this month, we're focused on financial literacy. And the person presenting that topic, you're the first to hear this, is David Gartner, who is the founder for Motley Fool. So he's actually going to be presenting to them and just talking about different investment strategies and how people can build a portfolio. And I think that the beginning of your career is probably the best time to do that because you develop habits that you're probably going to carry for the next few decades. So he's going to be talking to them about being successful in investing, and we'll talk about a number of different topics every month. But like I said, the main thing there is to make sure that people are in position to be successful, and then once they get into position, they continue to be successful.
Okay. That's awesome. Well, if you need somebody to talk about communications and being
absolutely. I'll take you up on it.
Yeah, you just give me a call. I'll let you.
Absolutely.
I'll be happy to do that. Are those free trainings?
They are free trainings. So what we're doing is, it is a small group. And what I'm doing now is making sure that I optimize the model so that it is scalable. And a big part of the reason I'm doing this is because you're seeing so much attention paid to diversity and making sure that minorities are having greater access to opportunities. So this is a part of that. And what I'm trying to do is to build a model that can scale, and so that I can add as many minority students and new career professionals as possible.
That's awesome. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I'm going to be doing a 4-part small business series myself on navigating the procurement process and certification and leveraging your certification. And
there's a need for that.
Yeah. I also have one in there for how to start, just the steps that you take to start, whether it's getting your EIN number, registering your name, and writing that business plan and doing your market research and stuff.
Right.
Did you do market research before you started your?
I didn't, and the reason I didn't is because I know there are tons of IT companies out there, and you just have to figure out a way to be able to separate yourself. And so I did focus a lot on separating myself from the competition. And number one is I felt like there was a need for what I was doing, because there aren't a lot of minorities in the space. When you talk about automation and data, there aren't a ton of minority firms that do that. And I also felt that there was we were at an inflection point in 2020 in light of everything that was going on with George Floyd, with the political elections. I mean, there was just so much going on, and I just felt that it was an opportunity for me to step in and begin to fill that void. And I still think it was a good move on my part. But like I said, I would probably do it a little different if I had to go back and do it again.
Okay. So question, you said something to me before. You're not on Facebook. Are you on Instagram?
No.
Twitter?
Nope.
LinkedIn?
Well, I am on LinkedIn. But so I'll tell you, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying about data. They've gotten so good at tracking your habits, tracking everything about you. And I've had the benefit of seeing what that data looks like. So going back to when I was on Hillary Clinton's campaign, a big part of any presidential strategy is micro-targeting. And what that means is that they take as many data points about you as possible and try to put together a digital picture of who you are. And back then, the example was, you remember those little grocery cards that used to be on your key ring? Those little tags, and you would scan it whenever you checked out. Yeah, so those things. You still use it, but you just put in your phone number now. But back then, they had gotten down so far to say that, okay, based on the fact that you want paper towels and lettuce, you're likely to respond to environmental issues. And so you would get ads for environmental issues. So there are all kinds of associations that are being made based on your data. So I think it was President Obama's election where Cambridge Analytica, they became news. But Cambridge Analytica, they were a firm that used the data that was generated by Facebook to start to target people. But the thing is, they weren't the ones who owned the data. Facebook is. So I just don't believe in voluntarily giving up that information about myself, which is why I stay off social media. I know a lot of people use it, but it's just scary what people are putting out there. And I just can't really get with doing that voluntarily.
So how dangerous can that be?
Well, so there is, I've heard it said.
I mean, because you about to start changing people's behaviors here on this conversation.
I hope I do. Okay. It is very dangerous. I mean, I've heard it said that the internet knows more about you than your spouse, and in some ways, it knows more about you than you know about yourself, because there are certain subconscious behaviors that you have, certain sites that you go through, and you're just mindlessly surfing through. And I think that if you realized what your digital twin looks like, and the digital twin is the version of you that's online, the data version of you, if you realize what was out there, you probably would operate a little differently. You know, in terms of the websites that you visit, the people that you're commenting on, the pictures that you're liking, all of that really is creating a profile of you online. And, you know, so that's why certain standards like, so there's something called the California Consumer Protection Act, which means that anytime you sign up for a website, they have to notify you what you're doing with their data. So that
nobody really reads all of that stuff.
Well,
right?
I think as California, they might be paying more attention to it, but certain similar standards are coming across the country like that. I know New York.
No, but I mean, are you talking about, like, you know, when you sign up for some type of service online or something like that, it'll give you some thing to say you agree to these terms and conditions? Are you talking about that?
Yeah, I mean, so that's part of it. That is part of it. But the reason I believe in California they're more aware of it is because it has been all over the news out there. So that came in place a couple of years ago, and that was on the heels of something that happened in Europe. And I can't remember what GDPR stands for, but it's a similar standard in Europe, which means that they can sue Google, Facebook, and others if they do the wrong thing with European citizens' data. So similar standards are coming to the US, and it's because data is being misused. You know, so when they track information about you, I mean, it is being resold. They're doing certain things to target you, and those are things that you aren't aware of.
Okay. Do you get into cybersecurity at all with Wave Welcome?
No, it's not. So I've had cybersecurity report to me, but it's just really not my passion.
Okay.
So there are certain areas in IT that I personally stay away from. Cybersecurity is one of them because there are people that do so much. They know so much more about it. I know enough to be dangerous, but you know, I would still give advice like the advice I just gave to be aware of what you're doing online.
Right. Okay. Because that's why I thought about that. I mean, you, with all that data and knowledge that they have of you, I mean, I'm sure it's pretty dangerous on that side.
Absolutely, it is.
Fraud and scams and all those
I mean, people, I mean, you have to, there's a whole industry around it. I mean, people really are trying to spend as much time as they can getting into your phones, getting into your computers. And if it sounds scary, it should.
And I just took a training because, you know, I still work for the county, but just in a different capacity. But I just took a mandatory training and they talked about social engineering.
Right.
And and to me, social engineering sounds positive, but then we started giving, you know, so easy for them to go ahead.
It happens a lot, and especially the higher up you are in an organization. So I've seen emails where people might go to the CEO and say, okay, hey, I'm the CFO and I'm stuck overseas, so I need you to wire me some money, you know, and they target the by name. And I'm not going to mention which organization I was a part of, but I've seen them be successful and actually get in, change the direct deposit for the paycheck and get that wired to their account.
Wow.
So the person expected to be paid, but their banking information was changed because of social engineering.
That's amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing. And there's social engineers out here who just make a living doing that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it can be lucrative. I mean, there was I've heard of stories where people are making millions of dollars just spending all of their time doing it.
Well, we don't want to promote that kind of entrepreneurship, but
no, we don't. No, we don't. Yeah, nothing that's going to put us in jail.
But listen, you said you're not on Facebook for and Instagram and stuff for all those reasons. But let me ask you a question though. You're on this show, and this show is live on Facebook and YouTube. So does that impact you?
No, my wife is on it, so I can look over her shoulder.
Okay. Well, okay. So let's get back to business. What does being an entrepreneur mean to you? You know, entrepreneurship. What does that mean to you?
That's a great question, Denise. So for me, one of the main reasons I wanted to work for myself is, you know, I have a lot of friends who have been very successful having their own businesses. And one of the things I noticed about them, of course, they work hard. But if they decide to take a vacation, they can really do a vacation. I mean, not on a budget, so there's the financial aspect of it. I mean, I really do want to be financially independent.
Okay.
And for me, one of the clearest paths to doing that was working for myself and being successful. But number two, I really want a legacy for my children. I've looked at people who have started businesses, they're grooming their children to come into the business. So if my children want to come into the company, they would be able to do that. But the third really is around the need for more minorities to be in technology. And I've talked to employers about formalizing programs for internships, apprenticeships, and no one's going to say no to it, because who wants to say no to college kids, getting opportunities? But it's always tied to me individually. So if I move on from the position, the program dies. So a good way for me to do that is to really build a model that people follow or that I'm able to scale effectively, so that as many minorities as possible are able to get the same opportunities I've had.
Do you partner, with other companies?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure
Absolutely,
you do.
I do.
Can you talk about that process? Because a lot of times, I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs who want to get into the government space understand the benefit
Absolutely.
of partnering as a way to even get your foot in the door, right?
Yeah. So for me, I'm new to it. I haven't been in business with Wave Welcome for a year. So it is important for me to make sure that I am partnering with people who have been successful, learn as much as I can, be humble and learn. So I have had the benefit of partnering with some great companies right out of the gate. So there are three ways that I look at it. There's the short-term income that really revolves around me consulting with the organizations like we talked about before. Then there's the mid-range income, which is going to be me finding positions that I can put on contracts in partnership with the companies that you're talking about. And the third would be contracts that are longer term. The procurement process better than I do. That takes a while.
Yeah.
But a lot of times that comes from partnering with companies that have qualifications or certifications that I don't have just yet. So that's where it becomes important, because not too many people are going to take a chance on a company that just started, because there's no guarantee that you're going to be there a year from now.
Right.
So the best way to ensure success really is to build your capabilities by partnering with a company that already does it well and learn from them. So I certainly do a lot of that. And like I said, I have some great partners who have been very helpful to me.
So, excuse me. And when you, well, let me just ask you this then, because sometimes people, for whatever reason, some people may just be leery of it, right? Probably because they're not comfortable, because they may not know, a person or a company or what have you, or trust, yeah. Right? Do you have run into that issue?
Well, that's another great question, because there are some people that I expected to be able to partner with, and it didn't necessarily happen. And I don't know that it was because of trust. Not sure what it was, but then there are others that I've known for years. I mean, they were just friends, and they said, hey, you know what? I know you, and I am going to take a chance on you. And I do appreciate those people. And if I ever get the chance, I'll return the favor. But it really is a mixed bag. And it goes back to what I was saying before. I mean, a lot of people, you have a wide network, and people are going to take a chance because they trust you, they like you. And a lot of business deals come from the fact that people just have a positive working relationship where they just like the person they're dealing with. Sure. And that's certainly the case for me too. I do know a lot of people. I've been able to reach out to a lot of people and say, hey, you know what? I've started this company. I could really use the help. And they stepped out, and they're really making sure that I am successful. But you're going to get a mix. You're going to get a lot of no's for sure, just like anything else. But you have to be persistent. And there have certainly been some times where I asked myself, why did I do this? Why did I walk away from a lucrative career and take a chance? But I'm happy I did it. Because at the same time, I see where things can end up years from now, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Now, are you certified? And, as a minority business enterprise, where's your company based? Is it Maryland or DC?
We're in Maryland. So I am a county located business. We have that certification. We're working on our MBE certification. And I'm looking forward to getting the 8A certification so that I can really start to do some federal work as well. So, working on that whole certification process.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is tied to being in business for a year. So I'm really looking forward to June so I can start to make a lot more traction.
Yes. So you said you're getting SBA certified. What is that process like? What has that process been like for you? I'm certified with the county and with the state and with WMATA and Virginia. But I hear that SBA, that 8A thing is a beast, right?
It is a beast. It is a beast. And so unless you get an exemption, you have to be in business for a certain amount of time. But a big part of, one of the biggest reasons I'm not getting the exemption is because you want to make sure that you're taking full advantage of it once you get their certification. So right now it's once you have your 8A, it's for 9 years. So you want to make sure that on day one, you're able to take full advantage of having that certification so you're not wasting time. And what that means is have the relationships with the government to the point where they're saying, okay, are you 8A certified? If people are asking you, are you 8A certified, it's probably time to get the certification so that you can do business. But I'm just not to that point yet. But you do want to make sure that you are forging those relationships in advance of getting the 8A certification so that you're able to get those opportunities right out of the gate and take full advantage of the 9 years. Okay.
Now with the state, that's the certification that you're working on right now, right? So with the state, you're not required to be in business for a year, are you?
No. So I've already submitted my application there, just waiting for the response back.
Yeah. Now, how long has that been for you? Because I'm giving this presentation on March 20th, you guys. So, make sure you tune in. But this is some of the information right here.
Yeah, it's been about a month for me.
Okay.
So we'll see.
So it took me about, it was probably right between 3 to 4 months, probably closer to 4 months.
That's good to know.
Do you think that you're going to have to go and do the review, before a board to explain some more of what you do, because I know they do a site visit and all. I did not have to go before a group of people to explain my company, I guess, at a certain detail. But I know some people do.
You know what? I hope I don't have to, and I'd be curious to see how you got around it.
Probably because my business was straightforward. I mean, I'm a photography company, it's not much complexity to it,
Yeah.
So, and I think it just depends on the industry that you're in. And I didn't know IT firms, have to go through that.
Well, I'm just an IT firm. There's not a lot of complexity to that either.
It's not a lot of complexity to IT, no. Yeah, well, we'll see. Hopefully that'll
let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, and so are you a home-based business or do you have a physical location?
I am.
Okay.
I mean, the reality is right now, there's no need to invest in space. And, even people that have space, including Ironbow, which was $1 billion company, the majority of their employees are remote right now. And, people are looking at lease renewals and whether they need the same amount of space because maybe only 60% of their workforce is ever going to return to the office. So it just doesn't make sense to take on that expense right out of the gate. So I'm taking advantage of the fact that we're all remote. And
if you recall, I mean, I think, and I'm not sure when you were with the county that, I remember when they started a policy where telework was available, but agencies didn't buy into it or authorize it for a long time.
Yeah, that started while I was there.
It did.
That started while I was there.
So I don't even think that agencies bought into it like a whole lot ever. Until COVID, right? And now COVID has shown them the way, right?
Well, you know what? I think it's an example of how if we're forced to pivot, we can.
Yeah.
I think that we've changed more over the last year
Yeah.
than probably the previous 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
who would have ever thought that governments would be able to function remotely? I
Yeah.
mean, you know how government operates, but everyone quickly made sure they had laptops, they had Office 365, they had video teleconferencing technology. We got it done, and it happened quickly. So I think
Yeah.
it's a lesson for the future that if we do need to do something different, we can
Yeah.
figure it out.
What's been the biggest challenge that you've had to face as an entrepreneur, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so I'd say the biggest challenge is just awareness. Number one, there are people who have no idea who I am, and much less my company. So just making sure that I'm, number one, having an impact, getting my name out there, but that it's for a good reason. So that has been a challenge for me because we really can't get out and network right now. We can't do the things we were doing before to create awareness. So I'm really trying to do as much of it as I can through my network to make sure that they're aware that I have a business, that I'm available for partnerships and anything else that needs to happen. But that really is a big challenge right now because, I mean, those major networking events just aren't happening, at least not in person.
Yeah.
And we're so tired of, web conferences that we're not willing to do those virtual happy hours and all of those other things that are going on.
It just doesn't feel the same. Like I can't buy some liquor from you, right? I mean,
well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of,
I shouldn't say it that way, but I mean, I'm just, I cannot sit. It's not the same as sitting at a bar or a restaurant and that face-to-face contact. And
well, yeah, just those virtual happy hours are the worst. I mean, it really makes me feel like an alcoholic holding a drink in front of a computer screen and talking to people. Yeah, that wasn't something we would have done before.
Yeah, yeah. But those companies like Zoom and what is it, GoToMeeting, and those other companies, I bet their stock just like shot up. Right?
Yeah. So, I was talking about David Gartner before. And so Motley Fool does a lot of stock recommendations. So he told me to buy Zoom, and that was a great recommendation.
Oh, wow.
Not endorsing any stocks, but that was a great recommendation.
And was it before the pandemic or during?
No, I think it was at the beginning of the pandemic, but he said he didn't recommend it because of the pandemic. There are certain indicators that he looks at when he recommends a stock. And Zoom had all of the right characteristics. And sure enough, I'll say every stock recommendation he gave me has panned out.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But Zoom was one of them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I might need to take you up on some recommendations.
Oh, absolutely.
I've been thinking about that. Even my son started investing in stocks, doing some little small stuff on some app. I forget the name of it, but it was the company that shut down those two.
Oh, Robinhood.
Yes, Robinhood. That's what it was. Yeah, he was on Robinhood, and he said that he's doing a little, he's doing a little something is what he said.
Well, good for him. Good for him. And that's the beauty of Robinhood and other apps like Stockpile and Acorns, because it is democratizing stock investment, because they do the fractional shares. You don't have to buy a full share. And it just makes stocks it makes it accessible for everyone, whereas they weren't before. So instead of having to buy a full share of something at $1,000, you can get in for $50. So it just makes it easy for everyone to invest. And I mean, I'm a fan of it.
Yeah. I'm gonna look into that a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, for my kids, and they're not kids anymore, but for mine, what I try to do is at Christmas, on birthdays, instead of giving them money, which I know they're going to spend, I give them stock. That's part of the reason I did that is because David was sharing how he became a multimillionaire. And it was because when he turned 18, his father gave him a check and said, "This is what I've been investing since you were born, and it's all I'm going to give you." So he and his brother, Tom, started Motley Fool with the money their father gave them that he had been investing. And, we need to take similar strategies to make sure that our kids are also financially secure as well.
Yeah. 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 So, okay. Well, you know what, Vennard, this has been a really great conversation. Do you have any bit of advice? What advice would you give someone who is thinking about starting a business?
Well, so what I would say, and you touched on some of it earlier, make sure that you are planning, make sure you have a business plan, make sure you research it effectively, make sure you vet it with as many people as possible. I mean, both positive and negative, because some people are going to say, no, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But then some people are going to say, yeah, you should do it, but these are things that you need to keep in mind. So, I mean, just be very deliberate, plan as much as you can, but also for me, I did have a financial cushion, which made it possible for me because for the first few months, nothing came in.
Right.
And I mean,
Right.
those were probably the scariest points when I'm like, what did I do? And,
Yeah.
I really didn't want to spend too much into my financial cushion, but it is important to make sure that you do have money set aside to pay your bills for a period of time until the business takes off, and then talk to people like yourself. I mean, about the certification process, so people that are very good at different parts of what your business is going to need, make sure you have those conversations with them.
Yeah.
And after that, believe in yourself and tune out. Go ahead.
Did you have any mentors?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, there's, I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to embarrass anyone, but there's one gentleman in particular who has been very giving with his advice. Even to the point where he said, hey, if you need anything financially, and I would never take anything from him, but he just wants to make sure I succeed. And he is very successful. So it's important to have people that are in your corner, people that have been there and who have been successful, because there are going to be points where, no matter how well you plan, things are just not going to go according to plan. So, I do have people that I reach out to at different points in time, and they've been very giving. And, I want to make sure that when the time comes, I'm also doing the same for other people as well.
Is there anything else that you want people to know about your company, Wave Welcome?
Well, I mean, just for Wave Welcome, I would say make sure that, the biggest thing about Wave Welcome is to make sure that you're paying attention to what we're doing in terms of the career pipeline, because we are going to be looking for partners. Once we have the model to the point where we're ready to really start promoting it, I want to make sure that we get as many people to sign up as possible to make sure that we are giving young people the opportunities that they deserve. Because, for me, growing up, I really didn't have those people who were in position who have been successful to look up to. And I think it's important for as many of us to make ourselves accessible to young people as possible. So that's the biggest thing. Just make sure you're paying attention to the Universal Mosaic Initiative. And when the time comes, I'd love for you to be a partner with us.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love that. Thank you for that invitation. Call me up anytime.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, thank you so much. This has been a good conversation. See, it wasn't
Denise.
It wasn't that painful, was it?
No, not at all. I enjoyed it. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you have a good evening and good luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you,
and
Denise.
let me know when you get your certification.
I sure will.
Yeah, I want to know that time frame, because certification sometimes can be a little tricky sometimes. But once you got it, it's a good thing to have.
Absolutely. And I'll be reaching out to you about the communications part too.
Absolutely. All right.
Thanks
you, Denise. Again. All right. Take care. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Right. Okay. All right. Wasn't that a great conversation? Man, I love talking to business owners and just having a nice conversation, because you never know what you're going to discover, the lessons that you're going to learn. So tonight, I want to just say thank you to all of, both of my guests, Senator Melony Griffith, from Legislative District 25 in Maryland, and Vennard Wright, CEO of Wave Welcome. I do want to just bring your attention right here. So, we do a lot of stuff for small business owners. So make sure you follow me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at I am Denise G. Smith. And I also want you to pay attention to this little banner at the bottom, because as I spoke with, or as I mentioned earlier when I was talking to Vennard, on March 20th, I'm going to be giving a free MBE training. It is going to be virtual by Zoom. You can register for the web. It's only going to be 1 hour. Listen, certification can be the catalyst that gets your foot in the door when it comes to government contracting. So if you want to know about the process for getting certified in Prince George's County, but certification is so similar to other jurisdictions that a lot of the same rules apply. If you are interested in certification, I would encourage you to register and attend for this free training on March 20th. It is, what is it? It's Getting Certified 101.eventbrite.com. You can register for the training at Get Certified 101.eventbrite.com. Get Certified 101.eventbrite.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next week with some successful business owners. Good night.